When it comes to family vacations, there are a million different trips you can take. You can get your own trip to Texas. Or if you prefer a vacation from your family, you can always get your own leave the kids with grandma trip to Texas. So go to traveltexas.com/get-your-own for the only trip to Texas that matters. Yours.
Have you heard? McDonald's, the burger OG, took their classic burgers back to the kitchen and they've come out hotter, juicier, and tastier. Onions added at the grill, perfectly melted cheese. Plus, the burger icon, the Big Mac, now has more Mac sauce. Just how good are these burgers? Rubble, rubble. Yep, they're so good they got the Hamburglar's attention. Better get down there before he eats them all. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Available at most restaurants in this area.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Top on my list is Antarctica. I have to go. And, I have to see the penguins. So penguins, get ready, get information, because I'm coming. It's as simple as that. I've traveled to every continent except for Antarctica. And so it's very important for me to have seen all corners of the world. I feel like in order to really experience the earth that we're in now, I want to be able to say that, oh, I've been to this place.
Hey, welcome to Travel Tuesday Happy Hour, where we interview dope people doing dope things from around the world. And we are in season 4, voyage 22. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and hit that notification bell so you guys know when new episodes drop. Today we have the amazing Veyoncé. Vey, tell them who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Veyoncé, aka Veronica, aka V, Empress V. I answer to all names. But again, Empress V here. I work in fashion, and I'm just so happy and excited to be here. It's Travel Tuesday. It's happy hour. And let's get it.
Let's get it. Drinks up. Drinks
Cheers.
up. Hey. So, Vey, where are you from?
So, I was born in Kenya. My family's from South Sudan. And so I was born with a mixture of both cultures, both South Sudanese and Kenyan cultures. And I grew up in the U.S.
So how was that for you growing up? Like growing up in Kenya and still trying to maintain and live from like the South Sudan type of culture?
Absolutely. I will say it was such a beautiful experience because my mom created such a cocktail of an experience at home. The foods that we ate, the languages that we spoke, we would teeter between English, Arabic, and Swahili in the home just freely. Also our tribal language too. So being specific with what we are in South Sudanese, we're Lotuko. And so my mom would speak to me in my tribal dialect. I would respond to her in Arabic. And then if we're in spaces where, my mom doesn't want anyone else hearing her yelling at me,
right.
she'd switch over to Swahili. And so I would say, especially here in the U.S., it was just a beautiful experience to be a part of so many different cultures and be able to tap into so many different cultures at different moments.
So Sudan, Kenya, now the United States, and Erie, Pennsylvania, of all places.
Of all places.
Do you have backstory of how Erie became a place to relocate to?
Yeah, so my brother had moved to the States before we came here, and he was located to Erie, of all places.
Interesting.
We moved November 11th specifically, and if you know anything about just northeastern weather in November, and Erie specifically, the lake effect snow was
Real.
on and popping during that time. And so I remember, you know, as a kid, just being so enamored with the snow. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Because you move from, you know, you're literally by the equator and now you're in snow. Wow. And you're in winter. It's not like a March something or you're just coming out of it. Like we were just getting into winter. And so getting acclimated to the climate was a big cultural shift. I've eventually adjusted to it. I still hate the cold. I'm a true summer baby, born in July. Right. Shout out to the Cancers. But yeah, I think that was one of the biggest adjustments was just the weather.
Oh, wow. So when we talk about traveling, right? So your first recollection of travel is literally from Kenya to Erie. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, man. I just remember being on the plane, just little girl on the plane and just like sitting next to my mom. I'm very much a mama's girl. So everything my mom did on the plane, I would try to emulate.
Right.
But in terms of like a cultural experience coming to the States, I remember being in class and like speaking to some of my classmates, sometimes in Swahili, unbeknownst to me. Right, it was just because I'm at that time, you know, I'm still developing my language skills. And so having to flip from English to Swahili and then back home, we're speaking a little bit more Arabic because we're in a culture, in a community where there was more South Sudanese presence there. And so, yeah, it was such an interesting cultural shift for me at that young age. And now when I look back on it, I mean, young Veronica is way stronger at that than 30-year-old Veronica now, because I would have just cried, you know? Wow. And so I always, you know, just want to name that experience as just being like a moment of strength for me. Also finding community too. Like one of my first friends in my neighborhood, there were 3 in particular, like Black American girls who really like welcomed me into the circle. And I loved that so much. And we had such a great experience growing up. And that really helped shape my perspective on growing up in the US and really dispelling a lot of like stereotypes that would have came. Or, you know, people would have shared about like coming or like growing up in the US. So
does Erie, Pennsylvania have a large immigrant population? Oh, wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the immigrants, there's a tight-knit immigrant population there. And so there's immigrants everywhere from, you know, Somalia, South Sudan, some from Kenya, from Congo, from parts of in India, in Bhutan, in Iraq, you know, some who've come from different, you know, Latin American countries as well. And so they all find some sort of like community within each other. I remember my brother, his sports team, like they were a really tight-knit sports team, and they were such a great soccer team. And it's because soccer is such a universal sport and also universal language. And so if you're a young kid coming from Kenya and you're meeting someone whose family just immigrated here from, you know, Honduras or wherever, language may be a barrier, but, you know, you both love soccer so much. And so, you know, finding those commonalities and those things. And so the community it's pretty tight knit.
So the most interesting part about that is you have people from the most warmest climates in the world in one of the coldest places in the world.
Snowiest city in America.
Snowiest city in America. And you guys are still able to find commonality and community.
Absolutely.
So with that being kind of your first time travel, what was the first time you actually like started traveling on your own that made you want to be like, I want to keep doing this?
My first trip that I took just as a solo trip with friends was Jamaica in 2013. I was in college. And that to me opened up my eyes to just wanting to travel more. I wasn't with family. I was truly with friends. And, you know, you grow up and you listen to dance hall and you're eating Jamaican food here and there. But to really be in the culture was something completely, totally different. And that to me, it sparked an interest of wanting to travel the world, wanting to see the world. You know, you watch movies and shows and they may depict a country or certain groups of people a certain way. And then it's like, you go to those places and you're like, wow, like I'm actually here, you know, like
right.
you're reading about certain things in history books, but then to actually be in those spaces, it's completely different. Also in my childhood too, like having friends from all parts of the world helped significantly, where it's like, you know, I can meet someone and they may be from Russia. One of my best friends growing up, she was half Ukrainian, half Russian. And she actually taught me a few words growing up.
Bad words, I bet.
It's some bad words.
You taught her some bad words. She taught you some bad words.
Yes, it was a good exchange.
Pretty much, I'm hungry. How do I get this?
Yes.
And how do I? Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely. And so that to me, it sparked an interest of, wow, I wonder what her life was in that country.
Right.
You know, like, yes, we're all here in this space, in this city that we're in now, but I wonder what your life was in Ukraine or Russia or the Dominican Republic or Mexico, wherever it may be. And so that really sparked that interest of wanting to just see the world.
Wow. So today, what inspires you to continue going, right? Like, I know for me, a lot of times it's food. A lot of times it's trying to find a new home, right? Not to move and stay permanently, but that feeling of home. Like what is the one thing that you kind of look for every time you travel?
Absolutely. I look for a sense of community. I think community is something that is so different, but yet the same in so many different cultures. So if I'm traveling to a Latin American country and me being a Black woman, I look for Black people. And I wonder what their sense of community is, what the Afro-Latina experience would be in Colombia.
Right. Because in some areas of Colombia, you could look like an Afro-Latino.
Absolutely.
Latina, and you'd be like, oh man.
Easily pass.
Right.
Easily pass. You know, and learning, when I was in India, you know, you have this idea of what the country may be just based on what is spewed out in the media.
Right.
But to go to India, and I've seen and met people who were as dark as me, if not darker, being Indian, I thought that was such a beautiful experience too. And so that is what I look for, is just a sense of community and where Black people live and thrive, and how do we live and thrive in those pockets of the world that I'm in. The other thing is food as well. I'm a hungry girl. So I want to find the best waffle. I want to figure out who makes it best, where to, you know, find the best place and enjoy. I really want to enjoy life and travels through the lens of a local. Nice. So if I think if someone's coming to New York, I'm not going to automatically take you to Times Square. That's a nice to have, but there's other neighborhoods, there's other pockets of New York that people can enjoy, and I try to replicate that in other cities and countries as well that I travel.
So what's been your most memorable moments traveling?
Ooh.
I mean, of course, minus Voyage 22, right?
I mean, Voyage 22 just blew me away. Send me to orbit. I am somewhere in outer space right now just thinking about Voyage 22. But I will say my trip in 2017 going to Cuba was probably one of the most impactful experiences. Cuba has been locked and tucked away from Americans for such a long time. And so to be able to go to this land that was so unknown for a long time and experience beauty, experience culture through the lens of people who, you know, you just didn't have any interactions with, right? Like, and so I love that so much. And then when we went, Jackie and I, it was right after Fidel Castro had passed away. And so you hear the polarizing opinions on, he was such a great, you know, leader. We didn't like him as a leader, right? It was just so interesting to see and to experience. And so Cuba is just definitely one of those places when I look back on my travel experiences. And of course, it helped that I read the autobiography of Assata Shakur on my way to Cuba. So I had a different perspective going in as well. Going back to my earlier sentiments about, you know, finding community and how Blackness truly thrives in those spaces. That book really just helped shape and frame my my views of Cuba. Yeah,
and Cuba is like a portrait that's been like stuck in time, right? Like, you go back to the classic cars, the fashion. Yes. Like it's as if they remain authentic to who they were in that period of time up until now.
Right.
And they've been able to make do with what they have for so long that, you know, hopefully as we increase tourism into their economy, like they'll be able to continue to grow and continue to develop.
Absolutely.
I mean, not that they're underdeveloped. They've been able to maintain without our intervention.
Right.
Right. And that's the marvel of what Cuba is I mean, I hate to use the term resilience, but there's a strength in being able to say, you know what, despite the world's objection to what we were about or we are, we're still able to maintain and continue to move forward.
Absolutely.
So what was your second one you were saying?
Of just the place that I enjoyed. Honestly, I would have to say the most recent Morocco. Of all the places that I've been, you know, in the world, Morocco has changed me, not only my perspective of a place that I want to travel to, but also I've grown, I feel like, after my trip to Morocco. You know, being in a country that, you know, a predominantly Muslim country during Ramadan is such a different experience. And just to experience, you know, the reverence that the people have around that time, the peace, and just it's an architectural splendor. You are just taken on a journey and all the different, you know, mosques or the palaces that they build and all the history, you know. It's such a beautiful space that I would have to say that's number 2.
Okay. So off air, we talked about, I believe, Ethiopia. Was it Ethiopia that you went to? I'll have to remember. I'll bring it back up again.
Yeah.
But that you had mentioned something about like going there and then like having that experience.
Oh yes, India.
India,
absolutely, yes. India. So when I traveled to India in 2016, I thought I was going to get the India experience, right, where it was the equivalent to like a Times Square in New York experience, right? New Delhi, that's it. And I was in Gujarat, of all places, in the capital, Ahmedabad. Gujarat is the state where Gandhi is from. That's their claim to fame. And alcohol is completely prohibited in the state. I think it's still the same now. And so I remember just hanging out with friends and just trying to figure out, like, okay, so like, what do you guys kind of do for fun around here? And they were just like, well, you know, we go to the corner and we have some tea and we just talk about news and etc.
Right.
And so we did exactly that. Like I went to it with an open mind. I said, look, I'm in a completely different country.
Right.
And I'm going to do, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Yeah.
And so I did exactly that. You know, we went out to this beautiful spot. We had some chai tea, which was probably some of the best chai tea I've ever had. I am a chai tea fanatic, and that right there, I mean, I'm chasing that taste till this day. It was beautiful. We were able to have conversations, and which allowed me to remember that, oh wow, like we have these conversations all the time with my friends. You know, we may be going out for drinks or whatnot, but we talk about pop culture. We talk about what movies are coming out, etc. And I feel like if I would have went into, you know, that situation with like my arms crossed or my arms folded saying like, oh, they don't let me do this or I can't do this, etc. It's very strict here. I would have missed out on that experience. So I went into it very open-minded. Yes. And so that India experience still sticks out to me too, where it's like, I went into it very open-minded. I did as, you know, the locals would do, and I had the best time there.
Awesome. And so you've traveled the world and some of us have bucket lists. Do you still have a bucket list?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Top on my list is Antarctica. I have to go. And, you know, I have to see the penguins. So penguins, get ready, get information, because I'm coming. It's as simple as that. I've traveled to every continent except for Antarctica. And so it's very important for me to have seen all corners of the world. I feel like in order to really experience the earth that we're in now, I want to be able to say that, oh, I've been to this place. I've been here. I've seen this. And Antarctica is one of the places that I really want to go to. Mm. Again, I'm not a big fan of the cold.
Yeah, you're chasing the coldest continent. I'm
chasing the coldest continent, but Erie, Pennsylvania prepared me very well for it.
Well, some will beg to differ. Yeah. Antarctica is a monster.
It's a monster, yes.
So you mentioned Morocco earlier. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, we got two groups of people that got the invite, mm-hmm. right? How was your invite to Morocco?
My invite to Morocco, I have to go back because I love to share, just like the background story with it. So I've known Jackie for a very long time. And when she told me that, she's dating this guy, Paige, and she's going through a laundry list of just how amazing and incredible Paige is. And when things were getting serious, she was like, we're getting married and this was the place that we're going. But even prior to that, Morocco was always something, or getting married in Africa was always something that Jackie manifested this, right? She had said, Voyage 2020, she wanted to get married in Africa, and in 2020, she had met you. And so it's just a beautiful manifestation. And so when that wedding was confirmed and I got that email, that was like me opening up my email and it said, tickets confirmed, front row seats at the Veyoncé concert. You've gotten into Harvard. The Nike app has accepted you. You're getting these shoes. It was one of those things where it's just like, okay, bet I'm in, and it's just, I'm so happy and just still so honored and felt privileged to be a witness of such a beautiful union.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. You make me want to cry. I'm not going to cry.
Don't tell me it's a good time. I love to cry.
I'm not going to cry. But so from that point forward to planning and traveling to Morocco, what was that like?
It was absolute ease. I am a true solo traveler, right? Even in New York, I prefer to take the train alone. I prefer to, do errands and stuff alone. And so to go on a trip with a group of people, for me personally, was very daunting because I do like to do stuff on my own. But it was such a well thought out, well planned trip that you really couldn't mess up any of the planning process. Whatever stage you were in travels, whether, you're an expert traveler or you're just beginning, like everything was planned out. Y'all had an info session before the trip to get everyone up to speed. I mean, just the details was just out of this world. So to a point where all I had to do was pack my clothes and go to the airport because the instructions were laid out for me. Easy. Nice. 1, 2, 3.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So Morocco being the place, like, for example, a lot of people don't envision Morocco to be Morocco, like you explained it. What was it like when you landed in Morocco that just blew your mind, apparently? Yes,
absolutely. I knew that it was going to be, or it was set up to be, one of the best trips I've ever had in my entire life was when we got off.
Some people take the straight path in life. But at Arizona State University, we respect your twists and turns. They make our online students more driven to excel in their professional lives. That's why our personalized suite of services empowers you with innovative resources and staff that sticks with you. Make your next turn with one of our 300-plus programs at ASU, #1 in innovation for 9 consecutive years. Visit us at asuonline.asu.edu to learn more.
When it comes to family vacations, there are a million different trips you can take. You can get your own trip to Texas. Or if you prefer a vacation from your family, you can always get your own leave the kids with grandma trip to Texas. So go to traveltexas.com/get your own for the only trip to Texas that matters. Yours.
McDonald's classic burgers are iconic, but even goats can be greater. So they took it to the kitchen, made the burgers hotter, juicier, tastier. Perfectly melted cheese. McDonald's best burgers ever are here. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Available at most restaurants in this area.
the plane, we got onto the bus, and we're on our way to the Janin Thompson. And Saeed, our tour guide, gets on the bus and he says, "Welcome to the motherland." But he says it with such enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "This is good. This is not only good, this is great."
Mm.
And then from then on forward, it was just unfolding to just a beautiful trip. Mm. Every single part of the trip. The hotel. Okay? Mm. Phenomenal. Mm. Absolutely amazing. From the service, from the aesthetics. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. My room was amazing. I felt at home there, right? I didn't feel like I was staying in a hotel. I felt like I was staying in someone's home.
Right.
And I love that so much. Nice. The wedding in itself, I mean, I cried tears to fill the Hudson 10 times over.
We'll get to that. So you've traveled the world and you've been to markets in every country because you're a fashion person.
Yes.
You're a shopper, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. And you're a haggler.
Yes.
Right? Now, we took the first group of folks went to the Medina that Thursday. Mm-hmm. What was that experience like for you?
The Medina is something that it's so hard to explain. People really have to experience it themselves. You come into the square and you see all of this activity happening and you say, oh, okay, this is a Medina. And it's just like, no, you are just having the soup, and the Medina in itself is the entree. So you have these different pockets of entry into the Medina, and you walk in and it's a completely different world that you're just transcended into. You hear all these different hagglers that are trying to get your attention in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. You know, they're complimenting you on whatever you're wearing. They hear that you have an American accent. So, they're saying, oh, we love the Obamas. I'm a big Laker fan. And so to see, LeBron James jersey hanging or, Kobe's jersey hanging. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let me go into the spot and see what they have.
They got you.
They got me. Mm-hmm. They got me. So it was such a beautiful experience there that, I just can't wait to go back and experience that again. Because every single corner told a different story.
Right. There's price. They got the best price.
Best prices. Every single person has the best price.
So were you able to leave with your shirt on your back, or somebody lost their shirt in the art of negotiation?
I left with, I don't even know. It was to a point where I was talking to folks and I was trying to barter this way, and also my family being South Sudanese, I was incorporating some Arabic to see if I can get a little bit more discounts here and there, which did help. But I was just so focused on entrenching myself in that experience, just being in the Medina, because there's no place like it, you know? Everywhere you turn, it's someone different, and they're selling you the best thing in the entire world. Right. It could be a keychain, and they'll let you know why this keychain is so important to your life.
Mm-hmm. And also during Ramadan. So a lot of times they haven't eaten all day.
Exactly.
So, depending on the time of day you're going, they're like, look, we're still fasting for Ramadan. You're the first sale all day.
Right.
Try to kind of butter you up. Because I know Jackie and I went into this China shop, and the guy was like, you're our first sale today, this price. And it was like, no, bro, I want all this for that. I was like, you got to learn to walk away. Right. Unless you walk away, they'll keep that
price. Absolutely. There's a few times where I had to do the fake walk away, but I'm walking away now. I'm going really slow. Absolutely.
So you guys leave the Medina. You guys have some time to relax and wind down and then get dressed. Now we got the nice little happy hour moonlit, situation going on. And then the dinner and then the party at the palace.
Yes.
Tell me, what were your thoughts?
I was blown away. And when I say this event there's planning an event and then there's curating an experience. And this was truly curated. Walking onto, the rooftop and you see all these beautiful people in their Arabian Nights and the jewels, and you're literally underneath the twinkled stars. And coming from New York, you look up and it's either, an NYPD helicopter,
right?
Or, it's some sort of skyscraper going up. And so to really just see nature at its raw beauty, I thought that was so beautiful. Right. And for so many of us who live in the city, we take that, we take it for granted. So just from the aesthetic standpoint, like in our bejeweled clothing, we were twinkling with the stars.
You're right.
And I loved that so much. Like it really made us feel a part of you all, you know, you two were the two planets coming together and we were the stars just twinkling.
Big boom between the two of us, we made life.
Oh,
you
man.
Know what I mean?
I loved it.
So from there, we went to the dinner table.
Yes.
What was that experience like?
I mean, let's talk about the entrance to the dinner table too, because that was every single part of this was an experience. And so to have you know, the folks come together who are from Morocco and to play the drums and to really get us, you know, just excited for dinner. Incredible. And to just guide us out. Like it was a true escort out onto the dinner. I love that so much. And then we went to the dinner table and it's just like this beautiful reveal. A long family style table, which I think was very important to show that like we're all truly one here. It's not pockets of tables here and there. We're separated by who knows this person, who's related to this person. We were all truly one in that moment. And so I loved it so much. And just, it was beautiful.
Oh,
I mean,
it was definitely a sight to see.
I mean, gorgeous.
Right. And then we transitioned over to to Marion's house. He opened, what was the corridor?
I mean, it was luxury. Every single aspect of this trip was luxury. We walk into Marion's home and, you know, it's the beautiful fireplace that she has lit where people can sit and, you know, they can talk. And then you go deeper into the home and she has that beautiful corridor that opens with like the no ceiling and you are literally dancing underneath the stars. It was so beautiful. It was truly beautiful. And so I look back at my photos and my videos that I've tried to capture of that moment and I couldn't capture it.
It's hard. It was hard.
It's hard.
Yeah. So the next morning we saw a bunch of people with some sunglasses on because they had a long night. So luckily we provided y'all with some CP time to get ready. And so with that CP time, I gave y'all enough time to rest. And look, I think everybody came through with the color coordination.
Yes.
Because, you know, the event planner Nazi, she wanted to make sure everybody was on their A game. So with that being said, like, what were your thoughts about the ceremony?
It was a beautiful display of love. It was gorgeous. I mean, even down to the color coordination, right? Where a lot of times in wedding, that color coordination is left to just the bridal party and the groomsmen. Every single person that in attendance was part of the bridal party or the groom's party. And I love the intention behind that to have everyone feel included. The ceremony in itself, I thought it was beautiful to not have any cell phones. We are so distracted by our phones. And so many of us would have spent a lot of time just trying to capture the perfect video, the perfect shot, and it wouldn't be able to capture that moment of what it was. But it also allowed a moment of vulnerability too. Like, I didn't have to worry about someone catching me with my lashes coming off because I was crying so much. You know, we were truly focused on Jackie, you know, taking that walk down to the aisle. Absolutely beautiful. And then you see her in her just absolute just gorgeousness, you know, just come about, and then her walking towards you on the aisle. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And so I love that component of no cell phones, no video. We're here, let's be present, let's celebrate this, and let's focus on what we're here for.
And there were no tears coming from me whatsoever.
Lies told.
It was all dry. We was dry-eyed. I'm telling you.
If I said earlier that I was crying enough tears to fill the Hudson, this man cried enough tears to fill the Pacific Ocean twice.
It happens. It happens to the best of us in the best of moments, right? But so from there we had the reception, which was beautiful.
Absolutely,
everybody came out. The food was amazing. Bang. And, we had some gentlemen come out there, sing a sweetheart song to somebody. We sang to him. And then, some people came out and stepped out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When y'all see these pictures, remember, I was in sandals. Sandals. Come see me after 20 years in and doing all of that in sandals.
Yeah.
So, ceremony, reception, everything amazing. And everybody get to rest. The next day, you take everybody to the hammam.
Woo! Say it again.
Take everybody to the hammam. Tell them what the hammam experience was like.
The hammam experience was luxury. The hammam experience was, just luxe. In every essence of what luxe should be. You walk into the hammam that we went into and you're greeted and then you're changed into these warm robes. They had these robes warmed and just waiting for you.
Must be nice.
We were sitting and, we had the mint tea and the cookies just waiting for us as they prepared the bathhouse for us. And then after that, you're summoned into your hammam house. It's nicely heated. They put the black soap on you, and then you just go in for a scrub down, to just feel pampered. You have to do nothing but just breathe and blink. Everything else was being done for you, and I love that so much because coming from New York, you're anxious all the time, and you're doing everything for yourself, and so to finally have a moment to just sit, pause, and relax and have someone do something for you out of this world. And then that massage. Oh, man.
Got every knot in my back.
Let me tell you, the Auntie Anne pretzel knots that I have on my back, I was complaining about it on the airplane right there. I remember I sat next to Jackie and I just kept massaging my neck. I was just like, I have a knot in my back. And that hammam massage experience was incredible. I'm still chasing that experience now.
Yeah.
It's hard to top.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we need to figure out how to bring it here. And listen, y'all will be there at least twice a month.
Absolutely.
Just cause. So we do the hammam and then we go to the fashion location. Woo. We went to the YSL Museum and Garden. Tell us about that.
So as someone that works in fashion, you know the history of some of these of these fashion brands. And you have a window into just the minds of maybe how Christian Dior worked, maybe how, Yves Saint Laurent worked. But to just, be in the country that inspired Yves Saint Laurent so much was incredible. But to be at the museum and to walk into a space where all of his gowns, or majority of his gowns are held, was just out of this world, a different experience. And then them at the museum being able to tie it back to the culture and say, also, wait a minute, he didn't create the caftan. He was inspired by the caftan. This is where the inspiration came from. But then you're able to see his interpretation of that. It moves you to tears, right? It was absolutely beautiful. I can sit in that room with all those gowns for hours and just admire every single detail because it was so detailed. And then you go into another room and they have this beautiful video montage of, Yves Saint Laurent throughout the years of, his early life and when he worked at Christian Dior and then when he created his own fashion house. And then you see his work come to life and you have, iconic models like they have a video of Naomi Campbell walking down the runway with one of his pieces and you just can't help but to cry. Like, wow, this is incredible, And so that was an aspect that I was like, wow, out of this world.
Oh, wow. And then the garden.
The garden. That, right? I mean, you have a space where I love color. I love all things about color. And then, you have all of these bright colors come together and put together so beautifully. Like the specific blue color that they have on the wall, like you can't find that anywhere. Yeah. That's not in a Crayola box.
It's definitely not.
It's not in a Crayola box. It's so beautiful. And then the way that it's able to like be contrasted. And so they have the beautiful blue wall, but they ensure that all the florals around it are different colors, but they complement that wall. I loved it.
As if they painted the
whole garden. As if they painted the whole garden. Crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a true work of art.
So Yves Saint Laurent was kind of like the last hurrah, right? But some of y'all had some interesting rides going back home.
We did.
Let's talk about. We ain't gonna name no names, but
on an airline that shall remain anonymous, we had a very interesting ride back. But what we said, Jackie, Joy, and I, was that I wouldn't have wanted to do that or have that experience with anyone else. We were able to assess the energy in the space, that it was a very high stressful time, and we recognized we're not going to add any more stress in anyone's lives in this moment. So in which ways can we step up, pull up, and just kind of, our end goal was just getting back home. Right. We just wanted to land in JFK, right? That was our end goal. And, we worked hard and worked together to figure out solutions along the way. The silver lining in that is that it allowed me to see Morocco in a way that I never got to see it before, right? Our original flight path was Marrakesh to Casablanca, and overnight in Casablanca, then to JFK onward the next day. When we got to Casablanca, we had some issues with the airline and had to drive back from Casablanca back to Marrakesh and find a different flight path, because at that time was through Spain. But having, that experience to drive from Casablanca to Marrakesh, a lot of people...
That's beautiful. Right?
Yeah, a lot of people haven't been able to say that. And so, there are moments I was asleep for majority of the ride because I was so tired. But for the moments that I was awake, I really was taking it in and saying, I'm seeing a countryside that I probably would have never been exposed to if I had not had this experience. And so that is the silver lining. But to the airline that shall not be named, there's just...
lessons learned.
There's lessons learned there. Yeah. Exactly.
So one of the things that I got from you from this trip was...
When you visit a state as big and diverse as Texas, there are a million different trips you can take. Let's say you've got an appetite for whitewater kayaking. You can get your own, so this is why they call it Devil's River, trip to Texas. Or maybe you have an actual appetite. I'll take a pound of brisket, 6 ribs, 3 links of sausage, and a piece of pecan pie. Trip to Texas. Go to TravelTexas.com/get your own for the only trip to Texas that matters. Yours.
McDonald's classic burgers are iconic, but even goats can be greater. So they took it to the kitchen, made the burgers hotter, juicier, tastier. Perfectly melted cheese. McDonald's best burgers ever are here. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Available at most restaurants in this area.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Was taking advantage of these baths.
Yep.
You were all about, all right, goodbye, y'all. I'm about to go take a bath. It's time for me to go take a bath. And not just take a bath to wash yourself, right? This was a moment for you to have a moment of solitude, peace, meditation. Tell us, what triggered that? Because, you were every night like, I'm out.
Every night, and sometimes in the mornings, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a day bath. Don't sleep on the day bath.
Hey.
It was important for me because, you know, coming from a very high, like, New York is such a stressful city in itself. You never take time to just sit, relax, and just be. Mm-hmm. And Morocco allowed that for me. And sitting in those baths and, you know, listening to my meditations or whatever calm music I had, it just allowed me to just stop and pause. Mm. I haven't given myself the luxury to just stop and pause in a very long time. And so I wanted to be very intentional on this trip that I had those moments. And so there were times where it'd be, you know, after a day of excursion, no matter how early I had to get up the next day, I wanted to make sure I got a bath in just to relax. And I would wake up the next day so refreshed, so excited. The day of leaving Morocco, I actually took a day bath, which was incredible. And got like a mini hammam experience because I was trying to replicate that. And had like a massage and stuff in my room, which was absolutely amazing. But it highlighted to me the importance of just pausing, relaxing, and just giving yourself that luxurious experience of a bath.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the amazing part about that is that we can't forget that our vacation is also part of our wellness, right? And so being able to go on vacation, because we're getting away from the rat race. Right. We're getting away from the things that are creating these levels of anxiety to us. And when we go on vacation, we don't, like, it kills me when people go on vacation and they need a vacation from their vacation because they didn't get a chance to relax. Right. And so I really like the fact that you kind of put emphasis on we need to take that time for ourselves. Especially you're dealing with 50 plus personalities, right? And at some point or another, you need to, you know, exit that space and kind of recenter yourself. Right. So you mentioned that you're a solo traveler, right? And so as a woman of color, like what has traveling while Black looked like for you?
It's been interesting. For the most part, it's been a very positive experience, depending on where I'm going, because at times I also travel with that added layer of I'm an American woman, and so I'm treated differently because of that. People hear me speak and they say, oh, you're American, and then however they treat me, right, good, bad, whatnot. In Morocco, I was also able to lean on the fact that I'm Sudanese, and so leaning on some of the Arabic as well, which helped quite a bit, you know, in bartering, etc. But overall, my experience as being a solo traveler has been great. I think as someone who hasn't solo traveled before, it can be very daunting when you're going to certain spaces and places where people don't look like you. But it's just going with an open mind and doing your research. Like there's certain places where I know if I travel by myself as a woman of color, as a Black woman, and as a dark-skinned Black woman, I'm going to have a completely different experience. But I'm very particular and very intentional with the places that I choose to travel to. Okay. But for the most part, it's been great, and I love it. And I'm on my time.
Right. That's why you solo travel.
That's why I solo travel.
Nobody else.
Right. Because who wants to wait for me to get out the bath?
I'm just saying, if we were to wait on Vay, we would probably be late for every trip.
We'd be late for everything. Yes.
So because you live a dual life, so to speak, right? You have the motherland upraising, and then you have your adolescence and your adulthood in the United States. As a traveler, do you kind of leverage your motherland experience to kind of help in how you're treated? Because I know specifically in some countries in Africa, knowing that you're African, they'll treat you different than knowing that you're American.
Absolutely.
Sometimes not too great. Right. But, you know, so what's that been like for you?
Absolutely. I mean, there's certain places where, you know, I go, and if I go as if I'm American, I know I'm treated completely different. Sometimes it's bad, you know, and then I have to lean on the fact that, oh, no, I'm an immigrant, and, you know, my family's from here, and I was born here, et cetera, et cetera. And then they're a little bit nicer to me. There's other places where, you know, they think it's the coolest thing in the world that I'm American. I was in Australia in 2019, and I have a lot of family members down there. And for them, not only that I'm American, but I'm in Brooklyn was the coolest thing in the world for them, you know, because they see the U.S. and New York in particular is just this like the culture in itself. It sets the tone. And so I have cousins who are speaking to me in the Australian accent and they're using like slangs and terms that you use here, you know, like, you know, they'll say things like, you know, yeah, like dead ass, cuz. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well. But, you know, and in those times too, it just makes me, you know, very appreciative of my American experience here and just seeing the cool factor and the halo effect that you get, you know, when you walk around and you say, yeah, I grew up in the U.S. You know, I'm in Brooklyn and Brooklyn is my home. And so for sure, I'm able to leverage both. So
have you, as an adult, have you been to Kenya or Sudan? And are you treated like a diaspora or...
Yeah. So
what's that experience?
Interestingly enough, so Kenya in particular, I've never been to South Sudan, but what's interesting is I speak South Sudanese Arabic way better than I speak Swahili. But anytime I go home to Kenya, I mean, I'm at this point, they can just smell it off of me. It's just in the demeanor and just like how I dress. Of course, when I speak, sometimes I do try to conceal my accent when I'm speaking to native Kenyans and I'm speaking in Swahili. Especially if I'm trying to like barter or something, if I'm trying to get some souvenirs and stuff for people when I come home. Only because I want to get the best price. And you're not about to pay me a premium price because, you know, you think Americans make all this money in the world. You know, Uncle Sam, the tax man, has something to say. For it, right. And so for sure, you know, when I'm at home, I do feel like I'm someone within the diaspora, but I've had this conversation with some of my friends who, we sort of teeter this line of, you know, you're American, but then you're also very much a part of X culture, whether it's like Caribbean or African cultures as well. And it's hard for you to find an identity because you're foreign to all of those cultures.
Right.
But for the most part from home, like, I mean, I could play it up. Like there's times even when I'm in Kenya that I even have to play up the American card as well. And there's other times where I just don't play it up at all, you know, just given on whatever I need as an outcome. So
do you feel like here your black card is tested periodically or because you've assimilated so long that no one really asks or checks?
Sometimes people would check. But I think I used to get that more in college where they would try to check my black card for certain things. And there are certain things that I would pass and there's other things that I just wouldn't, you know? And it took a lot of learning in my adulthood to realize that a lot of the things that they were testing me on was just very like trivial, and it's subjective to them. There are certain movies of like, oh, you didn't watch this when you were growing up? I was like, no, because I was 10 years old and you had no business watching it at 10 years old, you know? But I think here, for the most part, I'm definitely able to get by because I came here when I was so young. And so there's just certain aspects of the culture that I can easily just adjust to.
Right.
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned whenever you're traveling, it's important to do your research. What are some tips you would give somebody looking to start traveling, whether it be domestic or international? For sure.
Definitely take like the climate and the weather into consideration. One, I don't know how many times I have friends who hate the heat, but are talking about they're planning a trip to Dubai or the Sahara Desert. And I'm like, no, you know, you're not going to have a good time there. So definitely take that into consideration. Also, if there's like, look up the foods too, right? There's a lot of times where people go to certain places and they have allergies to certain foods or they become very nitpicky to the food too, because it's not like it is back home. And then again, I mean, encompasses all that. Just do your research on the culture. Like, is this a place where you would feel semi-comfortable? You don't want to feel too comfortable to a place because, again, what's the purpose of traveling if it's going to be the same place? Like, you could have just done this. You could have just done this in Flatbush.
You're right. You're right.
And so I think that's very important too. And then also, before you even get to that point of doing research, just make sure you have an open mind. I have so many friends or people that I know who would want to travel to certain places, but sometimes they're not open-minded to these spaces. And so... I mean,
it's definitely, and I get your point, because sometimes people are always looking for a first world experience.
Absolutely.
Country. And so we got to make sure that we set our expectations to, one, what you're willing to spend, right? If you want first world experiences everywhere you want to go, make sure you spend first world expenses, right? Because you can go to Bali and have AC blasting all day, air conditioning, room service, you name it, but then that comes with a price. Right. But if you want to be immersed into, you might have to sweat a little bit. Right. You know what I mean? You may not have to sweat the whole time, but you sweat a little bit. Because, you're going to Thailand, you're going to anywhere south of the equator, you're going to experience some heat. Right. And you may not find places with the best of accommodations. Right. So always be mindful, always be open. Awesome. So where can people find you, if at all? Because, no one can just find Veyoncé. We find fan pages of Veyoncé. So is there a Veyoncé fan page?
Well, okay. So if you want to find me, you can find me front row at the next Veyoncé concert. But, you can follow me on Instagram at Empress V, VEY, or on Twitter as well. I'm very animated on both social platforms. Okay. And if you have any, travel questions to any of the places that I've been to, feel free to ask. I think some people get a little bit hesitant to reach out to folks and say, oh, I've seen you gone to this place. Like, what's it like there? What are some places to go? I mean, I would love to share my experience further, even Morocco or wherever else I've been in the world. So feel free to reach out. And yeah, even circling back on Morocco, I just want to thank you and Jackie for curating such a beautiful experience.
Appreciate it.
Morocco wasn't a country that was high on my list to travel to because I've seen so many of my friends go to Morocco on social media. And I thought that's all I needed to see. Right. Not realizing it's kind of like someone saying, I came to New York and I took a picture of Times Square and that's it. There's so many different pockets and neighborhoods for you to experience. And so I just want to thank you all for curating such a beautiful experience for us in Morocco. Right. For us to just be able to enjoy. Like, I've been telling friends, I said, we have to go next year.
Yeah, definitely.
We have to head up Stella Travels and Morocco Daily Tours and really get that full experience. I mean, it's one of the best trips I've had in my life.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of times, social media can be a gift and a curse, right? Especially for certain countries, because we have a lot of influencers out there just taking pictures, the nice pictures, the Eiffel Tower pictures, the mosque pictures. And you're like, oh, that's all that the country has to offer. But, what they don't show you is the experience to get that shot. Right. Going from the hotel to the mosque and seeing the beautiful scenery. Right. Driving up to Fez and seeing the beautiful coast. I mean, Morocco in itself is beautiful. Right. And so with most of the countries, I tend to tell people, look beyond the Instagram shot. Absolutely. Because the shot most people choose to put on Instagram is the best shot they put effort towards. Right. But do give yourself the ability to experience those places for yourself, because your experience might be doper than theirs. You never know. You know what I mean? Because you can't capture a moment in a shot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because as much as your eye can see it, that camera or the camera phone, I mean, it won't do it justice. Right. So with that said, thank you for jumping on. Thank you. Empress V, Veyoncé, Veychella, all the Vey stuff. And we definitely enjoyed you on the trip. You were fierce in every shot that I took. Oh, thank you. And every shot that the photographer took. You. And so, you brought the Vey. You brought the Beyonce. Thank you. Aura and essence to the trip. So with that being said, thank you all for joining this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Yes. Hit that notification bell so you know when dope people like her come on the show. With that being said, stay safe, travel more. Peace.
When you visit a state as big and diverse as Texas, there are a million different trips you can take. Let's say you've got an appetite for whitewater kayaking. You can get your own, so this is why they call it Devil's River, trip to Texas. Or maybe you have an actual appetite. I'll take a pound of brisket, 6 ribs, 3 links of sausage, and a piece of pecan pie. Trip to Texas. Go to traveltexas.com/get your own for the only trip to Texas that matters. Yours.
Have you heard? McDonald's, the burger OG, took their classic burgers back to the kitchen and they've come out hotter, juicier, and tastier. Onions added at the grill, perfectly melted cheese. Plus, the burger icon, the Big Mac, now has more Mac sauce. Just how good are these burgers? Rubble, rubble. Yep, they're so good they got the Hamburglar's attention. Better get down there before he eats them all. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Available at most restaurants in this area.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.